Coming to you from our studios in Belize City, this is the evening news on Love Television for today, Tuesday, May 31st. We'll get started with the leading stories for today. Is there a rift within the cabinet? Health officials speak on Zika cases. Baja issues advisory to cattle farmers. We look at the forecast for the upcoming hurricane season, and former bank teller Kalani Flowers back in court on a murder charge. Reports reaching Love News are that following Sunday's convention, there may be two factions in cabinet, one for Saldiva and the other for Faber. This report comes following three back-to-back meetings that took place today in Belmopan. We have learned that this morning, before cabinet was scheduled to start, the Saldiva faction met in a breakfast meeting to finalize on some demands they would be presenting to the Prime Minister. The first meeting, led by John Saldiva, ran over time, and as a result, the weekly scheduled cabinet meeting began later than usual. There were reported some tensions in today's cabinet meeting, and each member was allowed to express their views on the recent convention. Whilst some reportedly congratulated Minister Faber, there were some who didn't. There was heat, and from all indications, it almost got out of control in the cabinet room. When that meeting was concluded, the Saldiva faction, which is reportedly made up of those who supported him in Sunday's convention, met with the Prime Minister, Dean Barrow, where demands were presented. Those demands may have included the removal of Godwin Halls as the Minister of the Lands Department, as well as to have Gaspar Vega retain the post of Deputy Prime Minister, and to have a mini-cabinet shuffle, which would have seen changes in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as well. Up to news time tonight, however, we understand that the Prime Minister did not budge to those demands, and as such, it is expected that Faber's ascension to Deputy Prime Minister will be gazetted next week and confirmed. Meanwhile, Godwin Halls retains control of the Lands Department, and the cabinet remains as is. We will keep following the development of what is anticipated to be a G11 movement within the United Democratic Party. On Monday, Justice Truadio John Gonzalez rejected a no-case submission by Kalani Flowers' attorney, Arthur Saldiva. Flowers was charged with the murder of Lyndon Morrison in August of 2012. Today, Flowers had to appear in court to give her side of the story. Along with her was a witness who was a security guard at Atlantic Bank. At the time, he gave a statement saying he witnessed the entire accident. Flowers' co-attorney Dickie Bradley spoke to Love News about what happened in the courtroom today.
Today, Kalani Flowers gave her version of what transpired. And then, in fact, security guards who were at the bank at the time of the accident saw the motorcycle flying past at a very great speed in their testimony, in one of their testimony. And the driver lost control, and that is how the accident happened. So let me be fair to your viewers and listeners. This is one of those cases where there are two versions of what transpired. The police are saying, and the case for the prosecution for the DPP's office is that Kalani Flowers drove behind the motorcycle and hit it with such impact that it caused that motorcycle to fly into the speed bumper, fly on the street and skid and cause death. Why Arthur Saldiva, who is a formidable defense attorney, thought it important to make his submission is because the evidence of the police, the evidence of their police mechanic expert, the evidence from their photographs, the evidence from the investigating officer and police officers who saw Kalani Flowers' car. This is the small red Saturn car, which the media have pictures of. There is nothing in that car which is consistent with slamming into a big Ninja bike to fling it up into the air and to throw the people out.
Sitting throughout the entire trial today was Morrison's family. His mother, Laura Grant, who was first informed of the incident by Flowers, says that they are confident that the Crown Counsel will bring them justice.
Most of the witnesses went in there and just told what they saw and what they knew. Today was a different story. This Johnny come lately, I call him, witness that came today, who let his friend sat in prison for 3 years and 9 months and did not say anything until today. I mean, he's not credible. So we're not worried about him, right? Everybody could have seen through that person. She bust through my door. My door was closed. She bust through my door. And she told me, the police is coming for me right now. I just knocked down Lyndon off a bike. And exactly like how I say it on the docks, in the docks, that's exactly how it went. God is with my family, and God knows the truth. And I know we will get justice for what she did to my son.
Since jurors have been withdrawn for trial cases like these, the verdict is left up to the judge. Bradley says that in a case like this, a jury would allow Kalani to be a free woman.
The expert for the police who examined the motorcycle said there is no damage at the back of the motorcycle, the front of the motorcycle machine. The accident would then seem to come from the motorcycle hitting something, either the speed bump or a pickup which was coming out of the church. But there is nothing to show that the car hit the back of the motorcycle. There's no tire mark, no dent, no broke, no crack, nothing. So that is why we were saying, if you had a jury with all the sensational and wrong information that is out there, when they heard the facts in court, which they swear to Almighty God to go by the facts in court, and if somebody tell you when they're on news, then the Crown would have a major problem, because they're saying the car is the murder weapon. This girl intentionally come with all the full speed and knock this big ninja bike. I don't want to use scooter, you know, I want big ninja bike. But there is nothing on the car. A car can't hit a motorcycle with that kind of impact and no crack up, bend up, mash up, dent up. And so there's nothing, you can't get over that. That's a scientific fact. If you say I shoot somebody and gun, and when they look on the gun was not fired, in fact it can't fire. Come on, man, that can't be the gun. And she wasn't driving another car. So there are things like that which, you know.
Both parties will submit their final case tomorrow, and Judge Truadio John Gonzalez will make a decision. The Zika virus is not new to the world. The first case of Zika was diagnosed in the Asian continent in the 1940s. The American region, however, is recently seeing an outbreak of the virus. 2 cases of Zika have been confirmed in Belize, one from Belize City and one from the Cayup district. Love News sat down with Dr. Javier Zuniga, the regional manager for the Central Health Region, and Javier Alpuche, the senior public health inspector at the Central Health Region. Javier Alpuche spoke about the diagnosed cases of Zika in Belize.
What happened is that what was recently reported in terms of the case here in Belize City and the case in the Cayup district, those are the first laboratory confirmed cases in Belize. Additionally, investigations have been done in terms of these last 2 cases, and we try to determine where is it that this person could have probably picked up the Zika virus. We look at travel history, for example. If a person does not have any travel history, then we might have to conclude that that person was infected locally. Then we start to talk about local transmission of Zika. Speaking specifically of the case detected here in Belize City, it points towards, yes, local transmission. I was not intimately involved in that investigation, but from what we have heard or what we have been told, that again appears to be local transmission. If we have cases already confirmed here in our country, in Belize City we're talking specifically, we have the Aedes mosquito, which is the vector. We will more than likely have cases.
Javier Alpuche spoke about the Zika plan that the Ministry of Health is implementing, stating that Belize has now moved into the response phase.
We're already having an outbreak because Zika is new to Belize. 1 case is an outbreak. So therefore we are already in the outbreak. Right now we are in what to call the response phase of the plan. The response phase calls, of course, for the continued surveillance As difficult as it is, as I explained, because of the person not developing signs and symptoms, we need to continue our surveillance. We need to capture more cases. We need to do more testing. Additionally, we also have the vector control activities that need to be conducted. But because Aedes mosquito is the same vector for dengue and chikungunya, basically what we'll be doing is just strengthening or enhancing what we had been doing. As a matter of fact, here in Belize City, again, trying to be proactive, we started doing even cleanup campaigns way back in late February, early March. We did a total of 5 cleanup campaigns, targeting those areas that we perceive to be at risk for Zika.
Dr. Javier Zuniga and Javier Alpuche both spoke about vaccine and development studies that are being conducted to develop treatments for Zika.
There's no treatment for Zika. There's no treatment needed for Zika. But there is plan, and I think it's undergoing already, the development of a vaccine for Zika. And they are presently in that process of testing that vaccine. So we probably have a vaccine by the end of this year.
Because Zika has been declared of a public health emergency and it's of such importance and is new to the region, all type of studies are being done. Studies that refers to vaccines, but even studies that refers to the control of the mosquito. I think Brazil was talking about releasing genetically modified mosquitoes for the control of the vector. How that will work, we would have to wait and see. And see what happens from there. But those are, like I said, things that are just being developed.
Dr. Zuniga stated that NGOs such as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation are contributing to the studies. One of the confirmed cases of Zika is in a pregnant woman, and it is dangerous because the fetus can develop microcephaly, a brain illness that affects his or her development. Because of the risk of the fetus developing microcephaly, pregnant women infected with Zika are closely monitored, as the current mother-to-be from Cotton Tree is. Dr. Javier Zuniga spoke about what the ministry is advising women in Belize in regards to pregnancies.
We have guidelines for Zika in pregnancy, and once we detect a pregnant mother, as I said before, we try to capture them as soon as possible. If they develop symptoms of Zika, then a Zika testing would be done to detect Zika. But what we want to do is to follow that mother throughout pregnancy, so prenatal care, to be able to monitor the development of the fetus itself within the womb, and also if the mother develops any illnesses during pregnancy as well.
The pregnant woman diagnosed with Zika is already in her 6th month of pregnancy. Dr. Zuniga explained how they monitored the baby for signs of microcephaly.
Okay, the critical time period for development of the brain is the first 8 to 10 weeks of gestation, which means of pregnancy, which means the first 2 months basically. That's when the organs and different structures in the body start to develop and mature. So the brain at that time period is more critical. That's why we want to capture these mothers as soon as possible in the first trimester. After that, then the first ultrasound that is recommended during pregnancy would be at 15 to 17 weeks of gestation, and this would give us some measurements that could detect if there is some type of malformation in terms of the brain at that period. And then again, we repeat another ultrasound around 35, 37 weeks of gestation, so in the 3rd trimester. And this could further give us, tell us that yes, there is microcephaly or not. And then we prepare the mother, of course, if it is detected, if the fetus will be born with any type of microcephaly.
Some countries, such as Brazil, have issued advice that women desist from pregnancy for the next 3 years. We asked Dr. Zuniga if the Ministry of Health is issuing such advice to Belizean women.
We recommend not to get pregnant, but we cannot stop women from getting pregnant. And we'll always have cases where, women will get pregnant, and we will just have to try to get the information across that we want to detect these pregnancies as soon as possible. But in terms of women abstaining from or not getting pregnant, probably 18 months from now.
In the case diagnosed in Belize, Dr. Zuniga stated that from monitoring the fetus, they are seeing that there are low probabilities that the baby will be born with microcephaly. Now that Zika is a reality in Belize, the Central Health Region is emphasizing the more necessity to avoid any more cases through prevention. Javier Alpucha, Senior Public Health Inspector, says that action is imperative.
Done is very important, and this is what I find somewhat puzzling. When you speak to the public out there, they know about dengue. They know that the Aedes mosquito transmits dengue. But how do we get action? Because they also know where the Aedes mosquito breeds. And that's the action that we need to get from the public. We need to eliminate all of those potential breeding sites for the Aedes mosquitoes, which would require cleaning the yards, getting rid of whatever stuff you have in there that holds water. It is said that one simple soft drink cover, the plastic cover, is a potential breeding site because it can capture water and it can breed mosquitoes. So you need to get rid of whatever you have in your yard that is holding water that may potentially breed mosquitoes. Secondly, we need to protect ourselves as well, and this is a recommendation. If you look at our pamphlet, it says no get bite. Protect yourselves, especially for pregnant women, but for the general public. If you are outdoors early in the morning and late in the evening, preferably use repellent. Preferably use long sleeve blouse or short, long pants. Sleep under bed nets at night. This is how you can protect yourself from being bitten by the mosquitoes.
Dr. Javier Zuniga, Regional Manager at the Central Health Region, explained how a mass outbreak could affect Belize's economy and social life.
If we have a mass outbreak of Zika in Belize, it will be very costly. One, to try to control the spread of the virus itself, because of course all the chemicals that's needed needs to be purchased. And not only that, but then in the end, if we have a child that is not developed, that doesn't develop properly, cannot go to school, cannot be productive in society, then that entire lifespan of that child is lost of his level of productivity. And that affects the economy on a whole, the Belizean economy. So it is very detrimental and costly, both to the family, to the health system, because we'll have to be continuously provide health care for that child, and of course the country on a whole.
Alpucha stressed on the importance of the public to cooperate with the health authorities in ways they can help, like keeping their surroundings clean and allowing insecticides to be sprayed. The anger and frustrations that the Guatemalans have been creating here in Belize with their mixed messages and aggression at the Sarstoon have made many citizens calling for a more forceful approach by the government of Belize, including a pause on granting Guatemalans nationality. It is a suggestion that the government has not alluded to or announced, but in a recent interview with the Immigration Minister Godwin Hulse, the government is keeping their options open.
There's a lot of discussion there, of course, and government has to balance its options. I mean, if you look at the individual who applies, the law is very clear. If the individual denounces Guatemala, which they have to do through a formal process, if the individual has been here 5 years or more, if the individual has been here legal and all that, then he or she would qualify. And you can't disenfranchise him or her just like that. But of course, there is no governmental rush or to expeditiously process things, etc., etc. And so, while there's no formal program and no formal discussions, government keeps its options open.
For the year 2015, 628 persons received a Belizean nationality. Of that, total 158 were Guatemalans, 45 were American, 17 were Canadian, 64 were Chinese, 118 were Honduran, 25 were Nigerians, and 72 were Salvadorans. Among the 38 varied nationalities who applied. Belize is once again making it into the international news as being a haven for tax evaders. In today's edition of Forbes Online, it was announced that the criminal tax trial was opened in Spain against the Argentinian athlete Lionel Messi of FC Barca. The article says that Messi is being accused of using a chain of shell companies in Belize and Uruguay in an attempt to avoid paying taxes on $4.7 million, which was an income earned from image rights from 2007 to 2009. Messi is being tried along with his father Jorge Horacio Messi, and both are facing 3 counts of tax fraud, which could lead to 22 months in prison if they are found guilty. According to Forbes, it did not help that Messi's name came up again in the Panama Papers. The article went on to state, quote, Spanish prosecutors seem focused on secrecy. They say the scheme relied upon hiding the names of the real owners of companies registered in the UK, Switzerland, Uruguay, and Belize. A key element in Messi's case is the clandestine nature of the tiered arrangement. The deal was structured to keep his name hidden. The Spanish prosecutor alleges that money was routed through UK and Swiss companies and then to companies in Uruguay and Belize. End of quote. Messi earns over $50 million a year in salary and bonus, plus over $20 million in endorsements. It makes Messi number 4 on the list of highest earnings athletes according to Forbes. The Belize Agriculture Health Authority Baja is advising livestock farmers to vaccinate their cattle against the ongoing bovine rabies outbreak. This disease has been detected in the Cayo district and is expected to affect herds in the Belize River Valley, as suspected cases have also been detected in areas along the McCall River. Farmers are warned that this disease can be transmitted to humans. Rabies is a highly fatal disease that affects all mammals. The disease is almost always fatal, but can be prevented through vaccination of animals and post-exposure treatments to humans. Affected animals will usually show nervous signs and aggressive behavior. Most animals will show excessive salivation. In swallowing becomes impossible. Avoid coming in contact with animals showing these symptoms. Cases. If you need any further information, you can contact the livestock officers of the Department of Agriculture in the districts, Baja Animal Health Officers, Belize Livestock Producers Association, and registered veterinarians. Cabinet Minister Godwin Halls has described the Belize-Guatemala issue as an emotional subject and has indicated that the Belizean people are entitled to determine how they spend their money. His comments came following a request for him to weigh in on the decision by several Belizeans to boycott the products and services of Guatemala. Here's what Halls had to say.
This is an emotional subject, and clearly if Guatemala is going to continue to be aggressive and belligerent and boisterous to Belize, Belizeans have the right to retaliate in the way they feel, and not going to Melchor and not buying products. And so it's to send a signal to them that even though we are a smaller country, we are fiercely nationalistic, and there are going to be some repercussions. And of course, you know, this is a world where money talks. So when the businessmen hurt, they are going to speak to their government and say, hey man, you got to ease this thing down. In fact, I understand it's already happening with the mayor in Melchor, and in that light, it's a good way to go.
The name Chester Williams has been in the media frequently in the past months since he returned from his studies abroad in July 2015. But who is Chester Williams, and how did he end up where he is today? Renee Trujillo had a one-on-one with the high-ranking law enforcement officer to find out.
Chester Clyde Williams worked his way up in the ranks of the Belize Police Department over the last 24 years. The journey has not been smooth sailing, as the 41-year-old father of 3 was forced to strike a balance between home, work, and his ambition to further his education. In 1990, when Chester Williams joined the department, he possessed only a primary school certificate.
I went to St. John's Extension. From there I went to St. John's Junior College, and eventually I was accepted to law school, and then to Norman Manley. So I did all my education per se whilst being a member of the police department, and it was very difficult.
Chester's ambition to pursue further studies took a toll on him, and there were times when he was at risk of being expelled from school.
Going to St. John's Extension and Sixth Farm, I was the officer commanding Crimes Investigation Branch. And, being the officer in charge of that branch is a very tedious task to be able to deal with investigations. But I find the time to go to school. Sometimes I miss classes for extended period of time. I was almost expelled at one point in time because I was missing classes too much. But my teachers, I must say, were able to understand, and I give thanks to Mr. Wang, who was the then principal of St. John's Extension. He was always an understanding person, a very reasonable man, and he gave me a chance. Eventually I graduated, and then I moved on from there.
With maturity came wisdom, and with that, the now Assistant Commissioner of Police shared some valuable advice he says you should always carry with you.
Never allow a person to dictate what your day is going to be like, or to dictate what your life is going to be like. Oftentimes you encounter people who would only throw negative comments at you, people who will wish the worst for you. But the thing is that in life, you are the master of your own destiny. If you know where you want to go, you know what you want to do, and you put your mind to it, you can do anything.
When it comes to family life, Chester says he can relate to the struggles in relationships, and added that police officers require supportive and understanding spouses.
I was in the same situation like many people, especially on the south side of the city, who are living in a poverty-stricken area. I lived it. I know how it feels. But I didn't look at my environment or the situation under which I grew to decide to dictate who or what I would become in life. So if you know you want to do something, you have a goal that you want to aspire to, you strive for it. And if you give it your best, I'm sure that you will be able to succeed. Oftentimes people do you things and they might think that they're doing you the worst, but instead they do you a favor. Take every negative thing that is thrown at you and turn it into something positive. I am a child of a single mother. My mother raised 7 of us alone. I'm the second youngest. I'm the last boy. And growing up life was hard. But I always said that even though my mother didn't have money to send me to school or to feed me the way other parents would have been able to provide for their children, my mother taught us love and respect, and I think that is the most important thing that one can teach you in life. Love, respect, and to always give God thanks. At least if you have life, you have something and there is hope. So I thank my mother every day for her diligent work in raising us the way she did. I know it was hard. I watched her struggles, and other parents would have given up, but she never one day gave up on us. She was there with us.
Being a product of a single mother, Chester says he knows what poverty feels like, and he attributes his successes to his mother, Iseline Augustine.
Many a times women don't understand. Sometimes women, they look at you, when are you going to be promoted? When are you going to be this? And they feel like promotion just comes like that. They do not expect you to be out there working, but they want you to be promoted. And they must understand that the department is a department where you must work to be able to get where you want. Nothing that comes easy lasts forever. We must be able to strike a balance between home and work.
Chester Williams was born in St. Bite Village in the Sand Creek district. He currently holds a law degree from the University of the West Indies and was recently called to the Belize Bar Association. Reporting for Love News, I am Renee Trujillo.
Police in the Cayo district are trying to locate 2 persons who they believe have been lighting structures on fire. Love News received a video of a male person lighting a thatched structure during the night. He is believed to be accompanied by a friend who was seen in the video fleeing the scene with the culprit. If you have any information about these 2 men in the video, you can contact the nearest police station. Dr. Dione Chamberlain of Chamberlain Consulting engaged in roundtable discussions in southern Belize with senior high school students. Paul Mahong has the story.
The Business Roundtable session was facilitated by Managing Director of Chamberlain Consulting, Dr. Dion Chamberlain Miranda.
We were very excited that the European Union sponsored this project under the Banana Accompanying Measures, and it's a visibility and marketing strategy to ensure that TVET and VOTEC education in the South is especially visible. What we had here was a business roundtable, and it made sure that business owners or managers met with students face to face so that they could understand the business opportunities that existed in jobs for them, while at the same time giving them confidence and sharing a portfolio, which is, we believe, is a lot better than just a resume, which shows what the children have been doing in school and what they're capable of doing and their potential in becoming a thriving part of Belize's economy.
Dr. Chamberlain Miranda spoke of the business owners whose presence and input were motivational to the participating senior high school students.
We had the banana growers, the Belize Woodworks, Fabregas, Garbutt's Marine, Banana Growers Association, and Blackador. And now today in Independence, at Independence High School, we'll also be adding that same grouping along with Belize Island Holdings or Norwegian Cruise Lines, Citrus Products of Belize Limited, Belize Bank, Aquamar, and Kerbo Farms. So the same session that we had yesterday in Punta Gorda, we will now be duplicating it in Independence, and we will have at that session the other schools in part of this project, which is Independence High School, Georgetown, Ecumenical, and Stan Creek ITVET.
During the productive discussion session held at Novitiate Nazareth Conference Room, students actively engaged the local business owners with meaningful questions related to the occupational careers discussed. With the closing of the Business Roundtable session, officials of Chamberlain Consulting, including Managing Director Dr. Dion Chamberlain Miranda, and staff members Mr. Michael and Teresita Perez Martinez, with assistance of others, presented certificates of attendance and appreciation to representatives of the participating Toledo business and educational institutions. Reporting for Love News, Paul Mahong, Punta Gorda.
The activity was part of the events for VOTEC Week. At the top of our news, we told you of the heated cabinet meeting this morning and meeting that followed where demands were placed to Prime Minister by John Saldiva faction. Minister John Saldiva has commented on our report via social media, saying, quote, "It has to be the greatest lie being perpetrated by Love FM that there was today any demands made of our beloved Prime Minister. No such thing occurred. No demands were made of our Prime Minister. This is why I, John Saldiva, do not deal with the media. Patrick Farber has won. We respect his victory. We know our mistakes. We are correcting our mistakes. We will win the next time around, but we repeat his victory today. We respect his victory today. But please do not try to insinuate that we do not support our leader. We support Right Honorable Dean Barrow to the max, and he knows that. We reiterated that to him today." End of quote. It is an interesting statement to make when the reports came from the higher echelon of the United Democratic Party. As we stated earlier, we will keep following this story. A shooting incident at Mile 8 on the George Price Highway has left a couple injured. Anthony Lewis and his common-law wife Emelita Bartley were at home when someone opened fire on their house. Lewis and his common-law wife received minor injuries. Reports are that while the couple was in their bedroom, someone pushed their hand through a window and opened fire on them. Assistant Commissioner of Police Edward Broster, Rural Eastern Division, says that they don't have any motives for this incident.
At about 11:30 p.m. last night, we received information of an incident at Mile 8 where our police officers responded to. Thereafter, there was a shooting at the residence of Anthony Lewis, where he was with his common-law, Emerita Bartley. Anthony Lewis received gunshot wounds to the right leg, while Emerita Bartley received gunshot wounds to both her left and right ankle. Currently, they are at the KHMH in a stable condition. At this time, we don't have any suspects. The area is well dark, and we are investigating that matter. The premises was shut up, and they received gunshot wounds to the legs. We do not have any motive for this shooting at this time.
Lewis was freed of the murder charge in 2013 for the death of Lloyd E. Banks, which occurred back in 2010. A 24-year-old woman is recovering at the Carl Huchner Memorial Hospital after being stabbed by a 17-year-old minor, Tamika Gillett of Unitedville Village. She received stab wounds to her right eye and behind her left ear. The two females had a dispute where the 17-year-old of Mahogany Heights stabbed her. Assistant Commissioner of Police Edward Broster, Rural Eastern Division, spoke to the media.
There was a stabbing this morning, yes. The suspect has been apprehended already and will be charged. The victim suffered injuries that are not life-threatening.
Just tell us more about it, sir.
They just had a fight and the female was stabbed by the other female.
What triggered that fight, sir?
I cannot say at this time. I don't have the full details on that.
A man is in the hospital after he attacked his wife in their home in Hattieville. Reports are that after he tried to attack his wife, her son intervened and chopped him. He is now recovering at the Carl Huchner Memorial Hospital and will be charged after he is released. Assistant Commissioner of Police Edward Broster told us what happened early this morning.
The suspect is at the KHMH undergoing treatment for injuries he received as well. The domestic happened in Hattieville. The female was held and prevented from calling the police. When she did manage to call the police and the police responded, the suspect fled in the bushes. Sometime thereafter, he went and hid in the ceiling of the house, and when the victim returned with her son, he attacked them both. Hence the reason the son defended his mother and inflicted the wounds upon the suspect who had inflicted wounds on both of them. Domestic violence is a ticklish thing, hence the reason why I'm not calling any names in this case. Nevertheless, the suspect will be arrested and charged and taken to court for the offenses that he had committed.
Police says the son will not be charged because he was acting in self-defense. The hurricane season officially starts tomorrow, June 1st, but this year it's off to a running start. The official season spans June through November, which simply encompasses the majority of storms during an average year. It doesn't necessarily catch all of the hurricane activity. We say a running start because back in mid-January there was the first hurricane of the season, Hurricane Alex, and just this past weekend, Tropical Storm Bonnie formed. Love News National Meteorological Service headquarters, where we sat down with Chief Meteorologist Dennis Gonguez, who gave us an insight on what we can expect this season.
Tomorrow, Wednesday, June 1st, is the beginning of the 2016 hurricane season, and some institutions have produced outlooks, projections for the season, and some of them indicate that the season will be average, or slightly above average. The activity will be slightly above average to slightly above average during this hurricane season. In terms of the number of named systems, they are predicting somewhere between 12 and 16 named systems. The average from 1981 to 2010 is about 12. So they're predicting average to above average number of named systems. And the forecast for hurricanes lies between 4 and 8, and the average is about 6. So again, we're just about average to above average in that category.
Last year, the hurricane season seemed a bit quiet and there weren't any real threats. However, that was because the El Niño phenomena was around, slowed down the development of hurricane activities. Gonguez says this year there will be no El Niño.
The predictions are for between 1 and 4 major hurricanes, that is category 3, 4, and 5. The average for that is about 2 to 3. So we're just about average to above average activity in this hurricane season. Compared to last year, the conditions that were around that caused such a relatively quiet season, all that will change by the end of July to end of mid-August. All that will change, so we will not have the same conditions around that caused that quiet season, relatively quiet season last year. On Friday we had Bonnie. We had Bonnie farming out in by near to the United States, southeastern United States. So we've had 2 early season storms so far, with Alex earlier in January, and then now Bonnie last week. So already the season is ramping up, and we haven't started as yet. So we're looking at about a little bit above average season this year. Like I said, the El Nino phenomenon that was around, the warm Pacific Ocean that caused the quiet season over this side, that will decay. That will decay by August. So then we can look forward to rather active season, above average activity.
Gonges spoke about preparedness techniques that should have been in place for family and businesses months ago.
Months ago, we should have started preparing, stocking up on canned goods, knowing which shelter you will go to when the hurricane, when the weather threatens. What time will you leave your home to head to the shelter? You don't want to get caught between your home and the shelter in a long line of traffic or something that you cannot reach the shelter in time. So all that you need to have within your hurricane emergency plan. What all will you take to the shelter? Not only canned goods, you have to take other necessities such as your house paper, important papers. You have to medications. You have to plan all that. What you will take to the shelter, when you will leave, when will you leave home to head to the shelter so that you don't get caught out in the storm. So preparedness is the most important thing. You have to be ready because we don't know when and where the system will make landfall.
The hurricane season ends at the end of November and it begins in June 1st. Our thought conditioner for today comes from Shannon L. Alder. It reads, quote, "When someone you love says goodbye, you can stare long and hard at the door that they close and forget to see all the doors that God has opened in front of you." End of quote. This has been the Evening News on Love Television, and we invite you to log on to our website at www.lovefm.com for transcripts of our news stories. Thank you for joining us. Have a safe and enjoyable evening. I am Taryn Butcher.